Hey, what's going on? My name is Bim, and the last time we had this in front of a camera was when I replaced the spring on the R2 because it gave out, and I replaced these buttons with the original DualShock 4 buttons. The problem with the replacement, and I think I mentioned this at the very end of the last video, was that the L2 tension was still much better than the replacement DualShock 4 spring. It's spongy and it still acts like a hair trigger. The slightest pressure sets it off, unlike, you know, this one, which has a very nice spring back. Now, I said I ordered some replacement DualSense springs. Here they are. They came in from Indonesia, and right now, here, at least here in Manila, finding these springs is not easy. I think I only found 2 stores that sold them, and they were both from Indonesia. You would think they'd be from China, and I'm pretty sure soon there will be a ton of Chinese stores that sell it for much cheaper. The 2 springs cost me $3 plus shipping, so not cheap. So here's what you'll need. Here's a plastic separator thing whose name I still don't quite know, so we'll just keep calling it a plastic separator thing. It's essentially just like a plastic with an angled wedge used to pry plastic bits apart, and a screwdriver. Similarly to how we did the last one, we go down, we go back here, we find a crevice or opening, and we jam our plastic separator thing, and it just clips off like so. We go here to the other side, we jam it in, and it unclips. So you just work your way around the edges here till you're satisfied that they are no longer connected to your controller, like so. I feel like there's a couple more that I am not seeing. Okay, so once you get this thing off, this owl Batman looking thing, put that aside. Next would be your L2 and L1 and R1, and you just put it in there, pop, they pop right out. Put that thing in there, pop, they pop right out. See? And once you've done that, you've exposed your screws. And if you had a magnetic screwdriver, that would be ideal, because these things can get a little fidgety. And then remove the 2 screws here and there. Once all the screws are off, you take your plastic separator thing again, and you work your way around the controller. And the reason why you want to use one of these plastic separator things is because you don't want to damage the plastic shell of your DualSense. Remember to unclip these 2 front clips, well, bottom clips, I guess you would call them. Once you've loosened all the plastic clips, it does take a little bit of force, and it does pop out like this, like a shell. And there you go. This is all the deconstruction you'll need to do if you just want to replace the springs. As you can see, the DualShock 4 spring is still in there, and it's doing pretty well. The L2 DualSense spring is there as well. Hold on, let me take out the battery again, just so you can see it better. You don't need to do this part if you don't want to. There's the L2 spring, there's the R2 spring, the DualShock 4 R2 spring. What I'm going to do is I am just going to get him out of there. You have served me well. So as you can see, the DualSense spring is shaped a little differently than the DualShock 4 spring. So that's also the reason why they break so easily. Because unlike the DualShock 4, where the tension is like that, and it's kind of designed to be spongy that way, the tension here is you're going opposite of how it's originally shaped. So it's supposed to do, that's why it breaks easier, and that's why it's a lot stiffer. So all you gotta do is, and you'd probably have an easier time if you had, well, if you, one, you didn't have a camera in front of your face, and two, if you had tweezers. Okay, so I realized the easiest way to do it is to, one, put the spring in the hook first, and then put this arm into the catch of the R2 trigger, and then manipulate the other arm to fall into that other catch. So yeah, it's a lot more firm now than the DualShock 4 spring could ever give me. Great. Okay, now putting it back is simple. So if you peel it out this way, you go back the opposite way, or you do the tops first, and it should snap in place. And then make sure that these two clips also clip back in place. Okay, once the battery is back, then you could put the shell back in. Put the screws back in, and once the screws are back in, you just put the R1 and L1 buttons back in just by pushing them down back into where you found them. See, they just clip in place. All right, we're back in business. Buttons are clicky, and the triggers have some really good resistance. So the replacement spring still isn't as doesn't have the same resistance as the original spring, I find, but it's better than the DualShock 4 spring by far. And the design of the spring itself will probably make it so that it breaks again. That's probably inevitable, the way just the spring is shaped. But you know, I have an extra one, and once it happens again, we'll just have to do the process again.